It's 1 month now since Typhoon Haiyan slammed into the Philippines, killing around 6,000 people. Those who survived are still struggling to clear away the devastation. My colleague Rico Hizon is in the city of Tacloban, one of the worst hit areas. He's there to see how residents are trying to rebuild their lives.
It's been a month since Typhoon Haiyan hit Eastern Visayas, particularly here in Tacloban City. And it's also been more than 2 weeks since I've been in the city. And much has changed here. And as I roam the streets of Tacloban City yesterday and today, I've seen a lot of changes. We're seeing now the streets cleaned up from debris and garbage. Peace and order has been restored now here in this area. And you also have the basic utilities such as electricity and water now available to some of the residents here in Tacloban City. The distribution system has been more efficient and medical services more organized. John Donaldson, my colleague here in Tacloban City, visited some of the devastated areas.
1 month on in Tacloban, there is still a daunting, massive amount of work to be done, but people are doing it. The aid agencies now are operating these mass cash for work programs, paying people a few dollars a day to get out on the streets and start, push on, press on with the cleanup. But most of these people here will have lost their homes. They're still living in very temporary shelter. But the aim is to try and build up some sort of self-sufficiency, put some money in people's pockets so they can try and rebuild their lives. Here in the centre of town, you really feel that people are doing their best to get back to some sort of normal life. A month ago, shops, warehouses were being ransacked by people desperate to get hold of any food they could. Now, there's legitimate trade going on. These goods have been brought in from neighbouring towns and cities, and the traders are back in action. One thing people do say here, though, is that the prices are twice as high as before the typhoon, but people showing real resilience, trying to survive. All across Tacloban, people are doing their best to rebuild their lives, and there is now a huge aid operation underway in this city. But the scale of the devastation means rebuilding is going to take years, not months. And there are still well over 1,000 people missing. And you can smell that many of them are most likely trapped under the rubble. John Donaldson, BBC News, Tacloban.
And to tell us more about their relief and recovery efforts, we're joined now here in Tacloban City by the spokesman of the International Federation of Red Cross, Patrick Fuller. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us on BBC World News. Tell us, we met each other about a month ago on November the 8th, and how has the coordination and the distribution been so far since then? Because there were a lot of question marks and a lot of problems on the first few days after Typhoon Haiyan hit Eastern Visayas.
That's right. I mean, things have improved dramatically here. We've managed to curb the hunger gap, so food has been getting out every day. The Red Cross has been rolling out relief to barangays around Tacloban and all over Visayas. That's been the #1 priority. Get food to people. 2.4 million people have needed food aid. That's a massive number. So we've curbed the hunger gap, but also we're looking at other areas like shelter. Massive needs here. 500,000 people have lost their homes. We've got to give them tarpaulins to patch up their homes, then look at longer-term solutions.
And right now, the emergency has moved from the response has moved from an emergency into a recovery effort.
That's right. There's a transition. People still need food aid, but we've got to look at other alternatives. One of the biggest issues here is livelihoods. Up to 5 million people, their lives have been disrupted, they have no jobs to go to. What do? One thing the Red Cross is going to do is basically put money in people's pockets. So we give them cash grants, enabling them to buy things on the local market.
So basically, this is your Cash for Works program.
Exactly.
Which you have on a daily basis. And how many volunteers do you have at the moment? And how much are you paying these volunteers to clean the debris?
Well, as a standard rate, they get 260 pesos. That's set by the government. I mean, debris clearance is an absolute priority because here in Tacloban it's happened, but further down south, completely different picture. Just 15 kilometers south, still the streets are clogged with debris. People can't get back to their homes. They need to rebuild. People want to go home. I mean, I would say that one of the other issues that's possibly being overlooked is actually the mental health situation here. There are hundreds of thousands of people who endured this disaster, who lived through it, who lost relatives. They're going to need psychological support in the long term.
Indeed, it's a logistical nightmare for everyone, because you need basically relief, health, waste management, water and sanitation. But going forward, what should be the strategy of all international and local relief agencies to be able to sustain this whole effort, not 1 month after, 6 months, not a year, but 3 to 5 years from now, which it will take to basically reconstruct and rehabilitate the area?
The ultimate goal for the Red Cross is to leave these communities more resilient to face disasters which we know are going to happen. I mean, one of the big issues for us is we need to rebuild 500,000 homes here. That's going to cost a lot of money. We're going to have to double our emergency appeal, so we urgently need the donors to step forward and support that longer-term process. I mean, the Red Cross will be here for at least 3 to 4 years on that long-term recovery.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights. Patrick Fuller, spokesman of the International Federation of the Red Cross. And Adnan, indeed, everyone who I've spoken with here in Tacloban City admits that the recovery will indeed will last not only a year, 2 years, but 3 to 5 years. But all of them are indeed willing to do everything to get their act together and to help each other for Tacloban and for Eastern Visayas to rise again.